issues. Today we have among us the expert of this subject, Dr. Rishikesh Manu sir. But before proceedings, following our tradition, I request our principal ma'am, Professor Alka Singh, Professor Department of English, for welcoming our guest speaker for today's session. Madam, please.
Thank you, Manisha. A very warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of the entire fraternity. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome on the forum on an important delivering a talk. So, on behalf of all, I'm happy to have you on this platform. And we are all happy to have who's an expert and a professor at National Law University, and talking about an aspect which I think all of us be abreast with, not only with our own research work, but
Madam,
with our
sorry to interrupt, your voice is breaking.
just give me 1 minute, Manisha. Just give me, I'm just trying to connect on another system. Just give me 1 minute. वीडियो आपने ऑन की can't use your camera आ रहा कोई बात नहीं कैसे can you hear me now, Manisha?
Yes, madam, now voice is clear.
Okay, fine. So basically, uh, on behalf of the entire fraternity for women, I'm extremely happy to host Professor Rishikesh Manu, who is an expert and a law faculty at the National Law University, Patna. And it is our extreme privilege that he has spared his valuable time to be with us. So, sir, on behalf of all my colleagues, a warm welcome to you, because what you're going to speak on is not only important for all of us, but also for to the students who we extend our expertise in research and documentation. So welcome on behalf of everyone, and I'm sorry for a little delay on my part. Thank you for being with us today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words and motivation. Now, I would like to introduce our guest speaker through casting light on his brief bio note. Dr. Rishikesh Manu is an assistant professor of law at National Law University, Patna. He holds an LLB degree from Banaras Hindu University and an LLM from the University of Delhi. He has completed his PhD from National Law University in Climate Change Law. He teaches environmental law, alternative dispute resolution, criminal justice system, and intellectual property law at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. He has presented papers at national and international conferences and has national and international publications to his name. He served as a resource person at the Bihar Judicial Academy in Patna and the Bihar Institute of Correctional Administration in Hajipur. So, on behalf of the whole Basanta family, I once again welcome you, sir, and I kindly request you to enlighten our uh, faculty members with your knowledge on a very contemporary relevant topic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Manisha. First of all, thank you, Professor Alka Singh, Principal of the uh, Vasanta College for Women, for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this very important topic of copyright law in India. Now, it's really an honor and privilege for me to speak with all of you in the college which was established by J. Krishnamurti, a great philosopher. So, to begin with, let's start with the very meaning of the intellectual property rights. Because uh, if you see the time in which we are living in a knowledge economy, and if you see the importance of intellectual property rights in the last few decades, you'll find that it has increased manifold. Now, as for the meaning of the intellectual property right, because uh, this law of copyright is also a part of the intellectual property right. So the intellectual property rights, basically, it's a legal right that protect the creation of mind or intellect. As the name itself suggests that it is something which is related to intellectual or something which is a mind work. So these basically rights, it gives a kind of exclusive right to the owners of the to the those rights, who this right is basically because the problem arises in the intellectual property right that it is basically intangible in nature. It's not tangible like the no other property which is movable or immovable, but something which is it's intangible in nature. It's a work of intellect, and that's why uh, the law related to intellectual property rights is slightly different from the property rights which we generally find in the normal uh, property cases. Now, why intellectual property is important? Because if you don't give protection to these rights, it will uh, have a hindrance as far the innovation is concerned, as far the creativity is concerned, and it is very much related to economic development. Now, there are many countries these days which are generating huge amount of economic resources or the development because of by exploiting this intellectual property rights. So, as far the types of intellectual property rights are concerned, because copyright is one of the type of intellectual property rights, but there are various other rights also which comes under your intellectual property rights, like your patents. We have a Patents Act in India. We have the copyright law, the Copyright Act in India, and also the Trademark Act is there, Trade Secrets Act is there. So there are various components of the intellectual property rights. Copyright is, of course, one of the component, very important that we are going to discuss. But if you see the whole this ambit of intellectual property right, it includes various component, various types. The four I have mentioned here, but there are others also like geographical indication. You have the other emerging areas, semiconductor is there. So these are the areas where you have to lot of changes are taking place, and because of its importance you will find that there's a global consensus, there's a global agreement which is there as far as the most of the intellectual property laws are concerned, and the law which is made in India, it is also based on those international agreement. Now, coming back to the copyright, if you see the basic what the meaning of the copyright. So copyright at the name itself suggests to right to copy, or in general term we can say, but it's basically a kind of legal right that is granted to the creator of an original work. So something which is original, something which first time someone has published, and it gives a kind of exclusive right that no other person can use those uh, right. No other person has those right to gain from that particular work of other publication or some cinematography, film, or music, or any other related area. So it is basically copyright is basically a legal right, and it is granted to the creator, those who are the author. Like if a book is published, the author is the will have exclusive right to exploit it, or to use it, or to distribute it. So he has a right to reproduce, publish, sell in the market or distribute the work, or in fact to adapt. Like suppose if you have written a book and you want to make a web series or a movie on that or a play on that, so you will have to get the permission from that author who has published that book. So there are various associated rights which comes from this copyright, and those exclusive right which is given to the author, he can assign it also. He can give it to a filmmaker for making a movie, or a director for a web series. Or there are so many web series which these days which have been made on this, which is based on this, some fiction or some writings uh, by someone, and they this right is assigned to that filmmaker. So basically this legal right, it protects the literary or the artistic, musical, or other creative work. Like as I told you that it may be adapted to various forms, and various kind of creative works these days comes under your copyright. We will see in detail what are those rights, what are those activities that comes under this copyright. So the next thing, right, that suppose if someone has written, now whether the lifetime he will get, or whether there is a limited time only till which that person has a right to exploit it, commercially exploit it. So yes, you, till the lifetime, to the whole of the life, that author will have the right to exploit that, or to make use of, to commercially benefit from that. But not only till the life, but also after life. So in different countries, you will find that they have a different time span till which, after the death, how much time that right continues. Like in India, you have generally, in most of the cases, you will find it 60 years after the death of the author. In some countries, you will find it even up to extent of 100 years. Like if you go to Mexico, they have 100 years. In America, they have, I think, 70 years. In India, you have 60 years. So because it is based on some international agreement, like Berne Convention is there, which was the first such kind of international agreement on the copyright law. And there you will find that they have provided at least a minimum period which is 50 years. So you have to give that minimum 50 years period after the death, but you can change that also. You can extend that also. So India, we have in the Indian copyright law, you will find that it extended up to 60 years after the death. So copyright protection lasts for the author's lifetime. So whole of his lifetime, that protection will continue. And even after the death, those who are the legal heirs of that author or the person, he will continue to exploit or to commercially gain from that work. So once the copyright expires, when that lifetime period and 60 years expires, so that work become a public domain. It enters into the public domain, and it becomes freely available for anyone to use it. So there are many movies. So those were suppose made 100 years ago, they are nowadays freely available, and anyone can watch it, anyone can read it, and you don't have to take the permission from the author. So this is for a limited period, but this limited period is of course not a very short period of time. And so till that period, you get the legal right to exploit it. So basically, copyright is a legal right which gives the authors, which include your various kind of creative works, your musical work, your paintings, sculpture, everything comes under your artistic and the other related work. So that is the basic meaning of copyright. Now, if you see the international convention that basically, if you find the various treaties that have been entered, because way back in 1886, you will find that the first international convention took place on the copyright, and that was in Bern, in Switzerland, and it was for the protection of the literary and artistic work. So this is at that time there were a limited number of countries which were part of this convention. That was international treaty, but later on many other parties joined this convention, and now almost every country in the world, they are part of this Berne Convention. So Berne Convention is basically, you can say that it is administered by World Intellectual Property Organization, which we call WIPO. So the WIPO, it is responsible for various kind of activity which is done for the protection of the intellectual property rights. And the Berne Convention, first time it introduced this kind of rules or the guidelines for every country that they should provide protection. So, because the way we started writing the books or the other kind of creative work, it also the threat to these or the exploitation of these or the issue of infringement of the right of the authors that also started from the beginning, and that's why it was realized that we need to have some kind of agreement to deal with that kind of copyright infringement cases. So the Berne Convention was the first of its kind convention where these rules were made. After that, you will find that there's some other convention or the agreement also which talks about it, including your Universal Copyright Convention. There is a WIPO Copyright Treaty, which is specifically on your copyright. And there is a TRIPS agreement. So TRIPS agreement has come because of the trade-related aspect of the intellectual property right, because we are living in a very globalized world. And of course, TRIPS is related to other aspects also, like your patent or trademark, but it also includes your copyright. And the idea is that there should be uniformity, because if different countries will have different type of rules, it will be very difficult to have protection. Because these days, as we know that we are living in a very globalized world, and any book which is written in suppose in India, and it may be used in various other countries, so there is a need to have a protection of these rights, this legal right. And that's why the TRIPS agreement or this under the WIPO, you'll find that they're trying to have some kind of uniformity at the global level, uniform rules for the protection of the copyright. So these are some of the international conventions, international agreements which have come into place to protect the copyright law, copyright to protect the copyright owners their rights. Now, next question which generally arises is, what can you copyright? So under which area it is this copyright protection is given? So if you see the different categories, there are different categories of the copyright, different categories under which you get the copyright, or the copyright law protects a wide range of creative work. So basically, you can divide it into literary work, dramatic work, musical work, artistic work. So in the literary work, it comes your books, articles, poems, plays, screenplays, manuscripts, blogs, letter, even emails, or some written work comes under it. So these days, as the digital technology has evolved, it is both a kind of benefit as well as a very serious threat, because we are living in a time where internet or this in this era of artificial intelligence. So it is both a help sometime, but it is also a threat. So there is also a challenge that how to protect this kind of copyright, because it has become so easy to make copies. Like take the example of suppose if a movie is made and it can be streamed online. So there are many cases you must have read in the newspaper that particular movie was released on CDs where it was released online, and that's why the producers has to suffer a lot because of the pirated copies or the online streaming of those movies or any kind of plays or any kind of web series. So this is something which is a challenge also. But as far as the different categories are concerned, you'll find it comes under your literary works, your books, articles, as well as your dramatic works. It includes your plays, screenplays, scripts of the movies or choreography, other kind of mimes and other intended for which are intended for performance. So on all those things you can get copyright. There is a protection for the musical work also, like if any song is made or any composition is there or any recordings is there, sheet music, even for the sheet music, you must have seen that on a piece of paper, the music, some sheet, which is it's a kind of graphical representation of the music. So even in that aspect, you can get the copyright. So different kind of arrangements or the other form of the music, you can get the copyright. Music is these again. There is a very it has become very challenging to stop the kind of copyright violation because of this internet, because of the various pirated format which is coming through CDs or DVDs or other kind of information technology mechanism. So musical works is also included in that. You have the artistic work, which includes paintings, sculptures, drawings, photographs, architectural works, maps, charts, various kind of things you will find in the Indian law, or at the international law also. This kind of things are protected under the copyright law. So it's a wide area, wide category of the work which is protected. It's not only this written or the novel or the books or the movies, but it includes various other formats. So because of the various development that is taking place, various new form which has come up in the recent time, this is also given. So you have, it includes your cinematographic film, like movies, videos, and other audiovisual works. It also includes your music, recording of the music, your speech, other sounds such as audio books these days, or the podcast. This has come in the recent time, or the music album. So everything is protected under your copyright. Now, one more thing that has come up, in which the copyright protection is given, is the software. So these days, the computer programs or the different apps that are made, or the other software coding is there. So for all those activity, all those work, also you can get the copyright. So you will find that this copyright is not just confined to literary work or dramatic work, but it has also evolved with the changing time, and in different formats, in different ways. You'll find, especially in this digital era, we are giving protection to all those format also in which it can be converted. Like these days, the books are, e-books are also there. But there's also a problem of copyright violation, because generally we find that many books are forwarded through internet, or because of it is in the e-format. So it has become very easier also to violate those laws. But that's how the system has the challenge, or the law, the work of the law has increased, because we have to change, or you have to find out that how this violation is taking place, or how we can stop this kind of violation. So these are the format in which you will find that it is given. Now, one very important, can say, the debate which goes as far as the copyright law is concerned, is the debate over this idea versus expression. Now, whether the copyright is given to the idea, or whether it is only given to the expression. So there are many instances where I find that the cases come before the court. The Supreme Court has decided in various cases that whether it's a idea or expression, and which one should be given the protection. So if you see the copyright law, or if you see the international practices, it has been made very clear that copyright protection extend only to specific expression of ideas, and not to ideas themselves. So suppose if I have an idea that I will make a movie on some college romance, and I have shared this with my friend who has written a book on this idea. Is that expressed in a form of a movie, or in a form of a in the form of a book. So the law says that you get the protection only for an expression. If something is in your mind, it's an idea, even if you have shared it, but you have not expressed it. Because on the same thing, you can make many movies, or you can write many books. But it doesn't mean that anyone who has written something on that same idea, he cannot get copyright. or it will be a case of copyright violation. So the ideas are considered universal and free for anyone to explore and adopt. But it doesn't mean that you have, suppose if you have expressed something, you have expressed your ideas, and another person has copied that expression, and then with slight modification they have written a book or has made a movie. In that case, the court will see that whether by going through both the work, do you find that it is exactly based on or something which is a reasonable person can feel that no, it is based on this expression. You have only changed slight, you have done slight modification, but more or less you have copied from that idea, that expression. So idea is not protected, but expression is. But what will be the specific vein in which the ideas are expressed is depend upon the facts and circumstances of the case. That whether in a particular case the there is an expression or whether it was only an idea. Let us see this to understand this through an example. Now, suppose if all of us know about the Superman. Now, the idea of there may be an idea of a superhero who gains power from an alien entity cannot be copyrighted. Suppose if I make an idea that there will be a superhero who will have some superpowers, but I have not give a detail that what kind of power that special character will have. But if someone has given an expression, like suppose take the example of Superman. Now, so if the concept of Superman is there, which has a backstory, which is there's a particular costume which is he wears, or some specific adventures he can do, or for example even Spider-Man. So there's a specific can say the characteristics of that superhero. Or in India there was a very popular theme of Shaktiman. So this is something which it's not an idea, it's an expression. So idea was only a superhero, but the expression may be in various form. So you will not get a copyright on that particular idea which talks about a superhero which has some special power. But if you have expanded your idea, you have expressed your idea in the format where you have said that no, there will be a particular costume that the superpower will wear, or something specific like Spider-Man uses this spider or that net. So that depend upon the specific characteristic that you have developed. So mere idea will not give you protection sometimes, because so many cases come before the courts these days that someone has copied or there's a copyright violation because it was originally developed by a particular person, and the other person has made a movie or he has made some web series on that. These days it's very much coming to the court. Such kind of issues are coming. Many in the case of your daily soap operas, you will find that there are so many cases which were filed that it was copied from the idea which was or some book which was written. So you may have given an idea, but it may not be expressed properly, and that's why the other person. So you cannot stop someone from expanding that idea to explore that idea and to adopt that idea in different format. But if it was properly expressed, it was properly proper characteristics was given, so definitely you will get a protection for that. So it depends upon that what we call it the test of reasonable person, that whether it will get the IP protection or not. Now, let's say come to a very important case. That's a landmark judgment which was decided by the Honorable Supreme Court way back, I think, in 50s. And the name of the case is R.G. Anand versus Mrs. Deluxe Film Limited. And actually, I think in 53 there was a play title, Hum Hindustani, which was made by this plaintiff, in this case, R.G. Anand. And R.G. Anand said that one movie that was made by Deluxe Film they have copied the central theme that name of the movie was New Delhi. Actually, this movie was based on basically on the corruption in the society. Now, corruption in the society is not something which is you can just it's just a kind of it's an idea, because corruption in the society may be in different form. So the plaintiff in this case, the R.G. Anand, he claimed that this deluxe film had copied. There's a copyright violation because the storyline that was the central theme of this play was converted into this movie New Delhi. The name of the play was Hum Hindustani, and it was converted into this movie called New Delhi. So this was challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has very clearly made a distinction between the idea or the concept underlying a work and its expression. So the Supreme Court said that the basic idea or the theme of a literary work may not be protected by copyright. Suppose if I have written a book in which I have given an idea. Now, it is not necessary, take the example what happened in this particular case. Now, it was that play was based on the corruption in the society. And this play was, the allegation was that the movie in which this was, the movie, that New Delhi, titled New Delhi, there's a it was similar to that, or it was a copy of that play. But the court said that the basic theme or the idea of a literary work may not be protected by copyright, because it depends upon the expression. What is how you have expressed that? What is the characterization? What is the treatment of the idea? So that you will get the copyright, not only an idea. So it depends upon the expression, the characterization, the treatment of the idea, that you can say that it will get a copyright protection. Otherwise, merely having an idea is not sufficient. So that's why if you see the judgment of this court, the court in this case said that this corruption in the society is just an idea, and there was no substantial similarity as far as this play is concerned and the movie is concerned. So there is no case of copyright infringement in this case. So there are various cases which comes before the court on this very basic this allegation that there is a violation of the copyright, because there was something which was, he has a copyright and the other person has copied and made a movie or has written a book on the same idea or the same expression. So only thing to understand here is that you get protection only for the expression, not for the idea. So this is a very landmark judgment as far as the this idea versus expression debate is concerned. Now come to the one of the important aspect, that who is an author, who will get the copyright. Now, so you have a different person who is considered to be an author, who get the copyright protection. And in the case of a literary or dramatic work, the author, that is the person who creates the work, the person who has written the work, will get the copyright. In the case of musical work, the composer. In the case of cinematographic film, the producer of the movie. In the case of sound recording, the producer. In the photograph, the photographer. And in the case of computer generated work, the person who causes the work to create, the person who is the software developer is there, or the person who has developed that app or has done the coding, so he will get the copyright. So for different categories, you will have a different person who will get the who will be the author and who will get the. Of course, you can assign. The law also allow you to assign it, to give it to someone. If you want to sell your work, you can do it. The copyright will be assigned, or it will transfer to that person. But generally, this is the author will be, according to law, it is the first creator, and that's why he will get the right to, he will have a right to exploit that. So this I have already explained, that copyright, the duration and expiration, that the copyright duration, it depends upon the different jurisdiction. So into some countries you have 50 years of protection. In some countries you'll find it is more than that. Like in country like Mexico, you have even 100 years. Generally, in most of the cases, you will find it is between 50 to 70 years. Like in India, you have 60 years of protection after the lifetime of the author, lifetime plus 60 years. In some countries, you have 50 years. Like uh, in the Berne Convention, the international convention, basically it provides that it has to be given till at least 50 years. So the international guideline is 50 years, but the countries, they can change according to their needs. So India has, in the Indian copyright law, you will find that it is 50 years, sorry, 60 years after the lifetime of the author. So in US, you will find lifetime plus 70 years. In India, as I have already discussed, that it is 60 years from the death of the last. Suppose if there are two authors, one died 20 years ago, the other writer, the second writer, uh, is he died 20 years after the first author. So that 60 years will be counted from the last author. So if you have multiple authors, in that case, the lifetime of the last author plus 60 years after the death of the last surviving author. So that is the time or the duration of the copyright. It is not for you can say that it will continue for always, or it will not have any kind of limited use. So you get that only for the particular time period, which depends upon the particular law of a particular country. And after that period is over, after the expiration of the copyright, the work enters the public domain. So you have many movies which were made, suppose the movie was made 60 years ago, and the author has, the director has also died, you can watch it without giving, or you can show it anywhere, or that book can be published by any publisher without giving any kind of royalty to the author, because that has entered into the public domain. So if that particular period is over, then you can get those published without even taking the permission from the author, if it has become, if it has entered into the public domain. Now, so it can be freely used, it can be reproduced, it can be distributed. So after a considerable period, only this kind of freedom is given, that you don't have to pay the royalty to the author. So that is the duration. Generally, it's 50 to 70 years in most of the cases. Now come to the copyright law in India. Now, as far as the law related to copyright is concerned, it's not a very new law, but because we have seen that the guidelines were issued even in the year 1886. But as far as the first legislation is concerned, in India, the copyright law is governed basically by the Copyright Act of 1957. From time to time, you will find that this law has been amended. There is a change which generally takes place, amendment takes place from time to time. Like even, I think last amendment was in the year 2022. And so from time to time, depending upon the need, because this last few years, you will find the last few amendments, basically it has come because of the challenge that has come because of the digital technology, because of the internet. And in the coming days, more and more amendment will also, you will find that there will be more amendments, because we are living in an era of artificial intelligence. And as I initially said, that it is both a help as well as a threat as far as this law related to copyright is concerned. So the Indian law, the copyright law in India, basically it grants creators exclusive rights over their literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic work, as well as your movies, cinematographic films, and sound recordings. Now, suppose if you have written a book in India, it doesn't mean that it will only have a protection in India. Or if you have made a movie in India, it will only be protected in India. Anyone from outside, they can exploit it. The law is that every country, that's why we have the international agreement, that if there's a copyright protection is there, every country has to respect that. Every country will see that no copyright violation takes place. So the Indian law also give the protection to foreign work. So if uh, there's a foreign copyright material, you cannot, it doesn't mean that in India you can exploit it or you can violate those copyright protection. So Indian law also give protection to foreign work under the condition that has been laid down, that whatever the condition it has in detail, it has been given in the act. And if you see the recent development in the copyright law, as I told you that the last amendment was in the year 2022. Basically, this amendment has taken place because of the changing time, because of the need to have a more protection in the digital age. So, and there's also international standard which has to be, whether it is Berne Convention or the other international under the WIPO, those protection or those rules provide that those protection has to be given in every country, irrespective of the country of origin. You have to give the protection to every country, and that's why this kind of the Indian copyright law, the Indian Copyright Act of 1957, it also gives protection to the foreign work. Now come to the rights that are granted by the copyright. What are the rights? In which way you can the author gets those rights? So if you see the Copyright Act of 1957, there are various rights which have been given. One is your right of reproduction. Naturally, if you have written something, if you have expressed your idea into a format, now you have a exclusive right to reproduce. You can make copies, you can use it in a photocopy format, you can digitalize it, you can duplicate the work. So many copies can be made. You can have suppose if you have written a book in a physical format and you want to convert into e-book. So that also it's a right which is given, the right which is called the right of reproduction. Next is the right to create derivative works. Like suppose if you have written a book and you want to adapt that book into some other format, like in the format of a movie or some other kind of adaptation, or suppose you want to translate that book in some other language. So the copyright protection is there for every format, every kind of derivative works based on the original copyright material. It should be based on the original copyright material. Now, the right of distribution, right to distribute copies or right of public performance. Suppose if you have written a play, so you have a right to stage a play or to screen a film or broadcast a musical performance. So stage performance, you can do public display. So if a painting is there or a photography is there, you have a right to public display. You can have those painting exhibition or other kind of exhibitions for their creative work. Now these days, this digital public performance has also become very important. So exclusive right to public performance, the work through digital audio transmission, such as streaming music online. These days we are living in a time where generally we don't have audio cassette or the CDs or the DVDs. Most of the music that we listen, it is through Ghana.com or Geo Music or various kind of platform. Spotify has come. So these are the online platform, the streaming musical platform where this is. So you can also, whenever these streaming platform, they use this kind of music, they have to take the permission. They have to, because the copyright is with someone else, and that's why you have to get those rights. You have to get the license, or you have to make an agreement that you are using that. So that can be done only with the permission of the the person who are having the rights. So these are the various rights which are granted by the copyright. Now, the next question which arises, that whether copyright registration is required. Now, suppose if I have written a book and I have not then a registration of that book. Now, whether I will have the with the copyright given or whether someone can exploit it. So the law is very clearly says that uh, registration of the copyright is not mandatory. It is not necessary that you have to register your work. Then only you will get the protection or your legal right will be protected. But if you are doing it, it will definitely going to help because it will act as a kind of legal evidence of the ownership. Even if without the registration, you will get the protection, but it will be easier. Suppose in the case of your infringement, if someone has infringed that copyright, it will become easier for that person if that person has infringed. If that person has the ownership of that copyright, that it will become easier that he can file case or because you have a legal evidence. Otherwise, in those cases where you have not registered, you will have to prove that through, it may take some time or it will become sometimes complicated also to see, to prove that you have the copyright lies with you. So the copyright registration is, of course, not mandatory in India, but it provides a legal evidence, and that's why it also always helps. So we have a system of registration in India. You can online also it is done. There's a Copyright Office of India, and the registrar of the copyright. If they make the registration, it is registered into the there are six, you can say, the categories under which you can make the registration. There is a particular format that has been given. You have to fill the form, and after the approval, after the submission of your documents, you can get it registered. So it is always better, especially in those cases where a lot of commercial value is involved, that better to get it registered under the before the registrar of the copyright. So it can be given for the literary work, your musical work, artistic work, cinematographic film, sound recording, computer. So everything is registered under the law. So benefits, I've already explained that it is a legal evidence, and in the case of violation, in the case of infringement, you have a right to sue. So you can easily sue for the infringement, and it is also a presumption of your ownership. So it becomes very easy for you to get the monetary damages and the statutory remedy that is given. And it will also act as deterrence. So suppose someone who is thinking about infringement of the copyright, he will feel deter that is already a registration, and that's why it will be very easy for the person to get the redressal of the rights. So there is an international recognition also. There is an international recognition that in every country it will be protected because there is a documentary proof, there is a legal evidence that this is a copyrighted work. So you have much protection as far as the violation, in the case of the violation is concerned. Now come to the remedies. So what are the remedies? Of course, we have seen that registration is a proof that you have a copyright protection which will be given. But suppose if it has already taken place, suppose if your copyright, the book which you have written, there was a infringement takes place, or someone has reproduced that book by changing making some changes in that book. So what are the remedies? So if it is proved that there's a copyright violation or the infringement, there are various remedies which you get, like civil remedies. In the civil remedies, you have the injunction. So the first thing that generally the party which asks for is that please issue an injunction order. So injunction order, when it is given, it means that the other person will be stopped. He will be restrained from further violation. He cannot use that. So there are various formats in which that injunction is issued, like is a particular order, Anton-Pillar order, or Mareva injunction that is issued in the case of violation of copyright. Similarly, you have the damages. Definitely, you will get the monetary compensation for the losses suffered due to the infringement that has taken place. And whatever the gain that infringer has got, suppose if he has sold 100 copies, pirated copies, so whatever the account of profit that has to be paid to the original copyright owner. Similarly, delivery of infringing copy, whatever copies is left, it has to be delivered, it will be confiscated, and it will be destruction. Like suppose if any pirated CD is there, so the court will order that it has to be destroyed because it's an infringing copy, and that's why there will be loss which will be suffered to the copyright owner. And of course, the cost of the suit. So whatever the cost was incurred in the legal proceeding, that will be recovered from that person who has violated. So this is something which comes under your civil remedy in the case of your violation. Now, as far as the criminal remedies is concerned, there are also criminal remedies under this act, and the infringement can be imprisoned for up to 3 years and a minimum imprisonment of 6 months. As well as the fine is there, he can be fined with a minimum of 50,000 to a maximum 2 lakh rupees, and of course the search and seizure, that whether you have infringing goods or the copies of that particular work or not. So for that there will be a search and seizure that may take place in the as a criminal under the criminal remedies. As I think Dr. Manisha, if you have, I continue, or whether you have limited time?
Sir, you can continue.
Okay, thank you. So if you come to some other aspect of the under this act, there's also a copyright board. Now, the copyright board is basically a quasi-judicial body under Section 11 of this act, and the copyright board consists of a chairperson, and there are 14 other members who come from the different background. And the chairperson, he must be a judge of the High Court, or he must be, at least, if not a judge, at least he should be qualified. That person should be qualified for the appointment of the judge of the High Court. So the objective behind this copyright board is that it handles disputes. Suppose if any dispute is related to the copyright registration, that the Copyright Office is not registering the work, or the issue of assignment is there, that someone want to assign it to some other person, or give a license, including the suppose the issue of unpublished Indian work or translation for any other related work. So the copyright board will generally, the matter will go before the copyright board. So as we have seen that, because it's a quasi-judicial body, there will be a judicial officer, as well as there will be 14 other members which may come from different background. So they will go into and find out that whether there's a violation, or whether the issue that has been raised, that of registration or the assignment, which is what can be done in that particular case. So the copyright board has got a power of the civil code under the section 345, and also the power of the criminal code under the Criminal Procedure Code 1973. So the copyright board, it handles the disputes related to copyright registration or the various other issues related to copyright. So if any dispute will come up, this board will handle it, and of course, if you can make an appeal against the decision of the board before the High Court or the Supreme Court. So there's a structure which has been put in place as far as this act is concerned, that what will happen in the case there's a violation which takes place of the copyright violation is there. So this is how the system is given, or it is in place. Now, one very important aspect again is lawful use of copyrighted work without permission. Sometimes we as a academician or a faculty member sometimes may ask you that sometimes we distribute some material which is written by an author, book from an author, or some article which is published. Suppose if I am distributing it to my students, now whether it amounts to a copyright violation. So that's a very important area for the person like the teaching fraternity or the universities, because sometimes there are issues which is raised that there was a violation of the copyright. But if you see the law, there are certain ways in which it is allowed, and it will not amount to copyright violation. and it comes under your fair dealing, that you're not using it for commercial, can say the exploitation. Your idea was not to commercially exploit it, but you are basically doing it for a particular in a fair manner. It was for a limited use of that work, and so this is allowed under this law, under the Copyright Act of 1957. So suppose if you want to write a book review, or you want to uh, make a news reporting of a particular, suppose there's a movie and you want to make uh, a movie review or some news report of a particular book or particular music or particular movie. So in teaching, in research, so if I am using it, not my objective is not to gain from that particular distribution or using that particular work, but the court will see that it has to be fair, it has to be proportionate, it was used only proportionate to what was needed, and it should not adversely affect the market for the original work. अगर मैं पूरी की पूरी फिल्म अगर कोई क्लासरूम में दिखा देता हूँ, and it may hamper the original work, so it may amount to violation. But if I put only some part of a documentary to explain a particular law or to explain a particular topic to my students, or suppose if I am giving a xerox of a particular chapter of a particular book for the educational purpose, now it will not amount to copyright violation. So I need not take the permission of the author also. If I'm doing it with the permission of the author or the copyright owner, it's well and good. There is no problem at all. But even if I'm not using it with the permission, but I was doing it only for the purpose of education or for the teaching purpose or for a research work. So the most important aspect will be that it should not be commercial. It should not be for the commercial gain, and it should not prejudice the right of the copyright owner. So if you are using it good faith, you are using in a fair manner, it is allowed. So definitely this even in the copyright material is there. You can get you have a right to use it, provided it is not for commercial gain and it is not going to affect the market of the original work. Of course, there will be some slight market if you're not. If I am not giving it to my student, it means that he will have to purchase that book, but that is something which is not at the mass level. I am only using it a particular chapter or a particular portion of that book for the educational purpose. So if it is in a fair manner, even without the permission of the to the copyright owner, that is allowed. So it is only for a limited area like your teaching, scholarship, research, or for news reporting, or for a fair criticism of the particular work. So it may be allowed. Or suppose if something which is already there in the public domain, naturally you need not get the permission from it. So it is already expired. So it is in the public domain. And so it means that you need not get the permission from the author. So these are the lawful use of the copyright material. Similarly, you can also find that if it is the government can use it, government official can use it for their official duties, or which are not typically the copyright protection, and it will not be taken as a copyright protection, violation of the copyright protection, and can be used without purpose. Personal use, like suppose if the book you have make a photocopy of that for your personal study or research or enjoyment, as long as it does not involve the distribution or the public performance. अगर आप अपने घर के लिए मान लीजिए, suppose if you are using that movie in your private capacity, it will not be a violation of copyright. Or in the case of your sometimes parody or satire, suppose there is suppose there was a lyrics of a song, and you are creating a parody, like in some, generally we have in some comedy show or some that kind of television show. You must have seen that some movie song is there is a parody of, which is not on the same, the music may be same, but you may have changed the words for the purpose of parody, for the purpose of comedy. So there has to be a transformative and uses. It should not totally copy it. There has to be a transformation of that work, and that will not amount to your copyright violation. Or you should not be very derogatory also, that without any reason you are criticizing it, you are derogating the particular work. So if you are using it in a fair manner, fair use, what we call it, it is allowed. It will not amount to violation. So these are the various ways in which even the copyright material can be used, and it can be used for in a fair manner. Especially, as I told you, that for academician, this provision is useful because if I am using for the research purpose, for the academic purpose, for a distribution among the student, for the educational purpose, it will not amount to violation of copyright. Coming to the last slide of my presentation. So if you see the because contemporary issue in copyright law, we have already discussed that we are living in a time where we are living in a digital economy, or in a very digital everything is becoming digital. So this has also posed certain challenges before the law, before the copyright law, that how to stop this kind of violation, copyright violation, that is so rampant these days. If you see the violation of the copyright in the digital era, it's so rampant because it is very easier. Like, there are various challenges that why this kind of copyright violation is still taking place, why we are not able to stop this kind of activity. The first is the jurisdictional issue. Now, if someone sitting in Pakistan has violated the norms, has streamed online a movie which was released just 2 days back. Now it will become very difficult because if your relationship is not with a particular country, and you cannot take up that issue in a very strong way. Of course, you can take up in the international forum, but sometimes a very long and very tiring process, and that's why this issue come up. Now, the next is the anonymity and pseudonymity, that in the online world, it becomes very difficult to find out that who is responsible. Of course, there are ways to deal with that also, but it's again very, very difficult because you need proper machine trained personnel to see that who is responsible for that, who has streamed. Like, in many cases, you'll find that a movie is released on YouTube, and sometimes because it's very difficult to find the person who has streamed that movie online, and or he has uploaded it on YouTube. So this anonymity and pseudonymity, that who has done it, again, it's a problem as far as the online format or digital format is concerned. There are digital piracy platform. I know when I was a student, and there was many such kind of digital piracy platform. There are certain website on which you can, even right now, these such kind of pirated websites, such kind of websites are there who release or who stream this kind of movies online. So again, this digital piracy platform, especially in an era where we're living in a dark web, there's a concept which has come, dark web, and where it is so difficult to detect. And that's why this poses, because of course you can have a mechanism, there are techniques to find out, but it's difficult, it's not very easy. And you need trained personnel, and in a system like in India, where you don't have very trained police personnel or that kind of having those persons who have this kind of technical understanding. So that's why it becomes sometimes very difficult to get your right redressed. And of course, the emerging technologies such as your artificial intelligence and blockchain, it is artificial intelligence itself a very, you can say that if you see the Western countries, in India we don't find much still, but in Western countries there are so many cases these days are filed of the copyright violation, because artificial intelligence like ChatGPT or like Google has also Gemini, and some other kind of Copilot has been used by the Microsoft. So they're using various kind of works which are a copyright material, and these technologies there is a lot of threat to that. Artificial intelligence is going to change the very you can say it will be very difficult to enforce those rights, because it not only it's changing the format, your language is changed, your this kind of technology is so sophisticated that it becomes very difficult to find out the or to to stop this kind of practices. So there's so many cases these days which are coming up on the issue of this artificial intelligence and the blockchain. So these are the some of the contemporary issue that is involved in the copyright violation cases. And of course, there are the law is also evolving. The law is also uh, uh, various kind of technology we are using to find out. There are, of course, but of course, we are much behind what is needed. So these are some of the issues which are some of the important contemporary issues as far as the copyright law is concerned. So I think this is how what in a limited time I could present. If you have any question on this, the topic, you are free to ask. Dr. Manisha.
If anyone have a question, they can either write in the chat box or they can unmute and ask sir directly. I think everything is very clear and sir has lucidly explained each and every aspect. There is no question. Thank you, Hrishikesh sir, for such a well-articulated, structured, and very detailed and informative deliberation. And I'm sure our faculty members have definitely benefited by your talk because it is very relevant for us, especially as we are in the field of teaching and research. And you have explained various facets of copyright in a very effective manner. And now I request Dr. Richa Singh, Professor, Associate Professor, Department of Psychology and Co-Coordinator of IQAC for the formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Manisha. It's an honor and privilege for me to propose a formal vote of thanks. On behalf of the IKAC committee and the organizing committee of this workshop, I convey my deep regards and heartfelt gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Hrishikesh Manu, for sharing his knowledge, expertise, and valuable insights with us on the copyright law, the rights granted by the copyright, the procedures for copyright registration, benefits, and the contemporary issues in the current era where artificial intelligence is evolving too much. So, your deliberation has been truly an enriching experience for all of us and provided our participants with the valuable information, and we look forward to more such deliberations in future, not only for our faculty members but for our students too, and probably in an offline mode. So thank you, sir, once again for sharing your valuable time. Special thanks to all our participants for their attention and valuable time. Sincere gratitude to our principal ma'am for her constant support and encouragement for organizing this workshop. Last but not the least, a special thanks to our technical assistant, Mr. Masa, for designing the brochure and the technical support for this workshop. Thank you once again to everyone involved and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much.